everyone, this is Lexi from Roam Lab, and today we are replacing an e-bike hub motor. Before we start, it's worth noting that e-bike motors and wiring vary between make and model. We are working with the Paselec PX1, but have found that the motor and wiring is fairly similar to many other bikes. The motor for our Paselec PX1 is located in the rear wheel hub. To access it, we need to remove the wheel from the bike frame, power off the bike, and disconnect or remove the battery. Now that we are safe from any shocks, it is time to disconnect the cable that connects the motor to the battery and other components on the e-bike frame. Fortunately, we have a 9-pin connector that can disconnect to free the bike. However, this was a modification we did earlier. For those who don't have a 9-pin connector, the cable can be disconnected without having to clip any wires by removing the wiring panel inside the bike's battery storage. With the wires free, we can remove the wheel from the frame by loosening the axle nuts and firmly pulling the wheel off the frame. Be careful not to harm the motor cable. Now that the wheel is free, we can open up the wheel hub to access the motor. First, remove the nut, washer, and torque washer from each side of the axle. Then unscrew the 6 Phillips head bolts that connect the sprocket to the wheel and set them aside for later. Next, firmly tap the opposing axle end to dislodge the motor and sprocket from the hub. That will be the side with the brake disc rotor. We use a block of wood to minimize any potential damage to the axle. With the motor loose, we can gently pull the wheel and the sprocket from the hub. Once free, gently work apart the sprocket and the motor. Now we are ready to install the new motor. Gently but firmly slide the motor, gear side down, into the wheel hub. Thread the cable of the new motor through the sprocket unit, and then secure the unit to the hub using the 6 bolts we set aside earlier. Slide on the torque washer, and nut onto each side of the axle with each torque washer aligned down. Don't tighten the nuts yet. Slide the axles back into place on the frame. It helps to have 2 people for this process to make sure the axle is seated properly along the brake disc rotor in the brake and the bicycle chain properly arranged. With the wheel seated, tighten the rear axle bolts and cover with nut protectors. Now, we are back to the issue of wiring. Here again, we are at a divide in approaches. Since we have a 9-pin connector, we will splice the cable wires. For those without a connector, we can thread the wire back into the frame and reconnect the wires in the reservoir accessed by the battery panel we opened earlier. With the wiring complete, the bike should be back in working order. Reconnect the battery and power to the bike to give it a spin. You can find more details with pictures on our website, roamlab.com. If you found this helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to Roam Lab for future bike maintenance projects.